Welcome to Homefront Sit Rep. I hope you're in for a great show today because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find Homefront Sit Rep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out Homefront Sit Rep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Homefront Sit Rep. You know who I am, and this is my buddy Kevin Trees.
How y'all doing, everyone?
This is the first show of 2024. Man, Kevin, how was your Christmas, brother, and your New Year's?
You know, my daughter is an Army vet, or not, she's in the Army up in Washington State, so she didn't come home. My granddaughter didn't come home. So.
Oh, man.
Christmas was Christmas, you know.
Yeah, but they're going to come in later, right? Is that
not this year?
I thought they were.
No, it's tough. But we're going to be up there in February to see them. So
nice.
But no, you know, every other Christmas is good. Every other Christmas, my wife makes me drag out, 8,000 Christmas lights and decorate the front of the house and do all that stuff when my grandbaby comes in. So, you know what? I don't really complain.
No, I hear you. My wife has a menagerie of animals that blow up on the front porch. Oh, yeah. And then as you can see when you walk through the house looked like Santa Claus threw up because there's Christmas snowmen and stuff everywhere. And, we went to St. Augustine for New Year's. So we just now recently got home and hadn't had really time to put Christmas away yet. So
you got away. That's my home state.
Oh yeah,
Pensacola, Florida.
Nice. Yeah, we're thinking about moving in a couple years down to the Tampa area. Of course, we got some friends that live down there already, so that kind of works out. So we're just playing it by ear and seeing, once the kids graduate high school and stuff like that, and see what we're going to wind up doing. So, no, I'm excited back for a new season, man. 2023 was amazing with all of the listeners and the watchers and people out there, and I'm excited to start the brand new year, the new season with a Marine veteran. He's also former LMPD police officer. He's an author, power lifter. He's singing now. So yeah, man, I'm excited to have you on here and let the world know who you are. I'm sure people already know who you are somewhat. But now that you're on here, people are going to know you even more. So
you can call it ADD or short attention span is why I've done so many things in my life.
Well, you got to find your niche in life, though.
I don't know, man. I just keep looking. It's like I look and then I get bored, So, but no, I've tried to do a lot of things. I tried different things. I just try to different things to see if I like them, and
if you like it, you stick with it for a while, and then,
for a little while, and then I move on.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's like doing this podcast, man. Before I started doing this, I didn't know what I wanted to do in my spare time other than, my spare time that I spend with my family. But there was still a void because I stopped doing, not really stopped doing the veteran charity work, but I wasn't part of the veteran service organization. So I didn't feel that purpose. And then when I left my last one, Let me see some else. What up, Rick Ames?
Rick Ames, what's up, brother?
Yeah. So when I left my last service organization, I was like, I'm going to start. Yeah, right, Rick. Who has spare time? I was like, well, I'm going to start a podcast, and we started this podcast. Just wanting to help one veteran at a time. And, we've grown to where we got a pretty decent sized following of people who's watching us and stuff like that. I mean, it reached from West Virginia, Florida to California. I just had somebody reach out to me from downtown Los Angeles that wants to come on and talk about Japanese World War II American soldiers. So Japanese American soldiers from World War II and the struggles that they faced.
Right.
And I'm like, man,
that'd be cool.
That would be a cool
that'd
one.
Be way cool, yeah.
For one, it's history.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to see the diversity of how the military has changed since World War II to now.
Right.
So I think that'd be pretty cool.
No, and those are definitely challenging times for our military. So it would really be cool to hear their backstory and how their families were affected.
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, number one, I'm honored to be here. Thank you
you're welcome
for having me for the first 2024. Man, if I could describe myself in just one sentence, it's just a regular, normal guy. Now, that being said, I've done a lot of extraordinary things. But, the reason I wanted to come on here and talk, because I've done a lot of extraordinary things. I've done a lot of crazy things, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. But at the very end of the day, I'm just a normal person. I'm a normal guy, normal everything, nothing extraordinary. I wasn't raised any special way. Father wasn't in the house. Parents were divorced, broken home, But no, my name is Kevin. Last name's Trees, like the trees outside. Born in Pensacola, Florida. My father moved around a lot. We moved the family around a lot. In 87, I graduated high school. I came back up here to go to junior college. I was living with my mother. We had a falling out, and I ended up being homeless. So I lived in a car for about a month. This is why I was a part-time supervisor at UPS.
Okay.
So I lived in a car, and then the car happened to belong to my mother. So she's like, I need my car back.
Man.
Or calling the police. So then I ended up staying in the backyard, a friend of mine's backyard, under a shower curtain. It's actually my girlfriend at the time. And her mom was extremely devout Catholic, and I wasn't allowed in the house after 9. So I slept in the backyard under the shower curtain.
Man.
The path to the Marine Corps, I was going to join the military anyway, because I was going to do it as an officer. I was going to do,
you can go to college and then
yeah.
Okay.
But the way it turned out, I couldn't get a car. I couldn't get an apartment. I couldn't get anything. So one Saturday morning, pissed off at the world, I walked up to the Marine Corps. Or I walked up to all the recruiter station, and I walked in and I said, 2 questions. They all came out of their offices, and I said 2 questions. And I said, man, who's got aviation? And they all said they did. And I said, who's got the hardest boot camp? Because at that point, I was just self-hating.
Right.
And so the Marine Corps, of course, he told me to step in his office. So a month later, July 9th of 1989, I was in Paris, South Carolina.
Oh, man. Down in Beaufort, down during the hot season.
Yep. So Beaufort, July to October, did that. I was actually an air traffic controller. Graduated top of my class, air traffic control in Millington, Tennessee. Did that for a year and a half. The Gulf War came, the Gulf War went. They sent me nowhere. I was really upset about that.
Oh, I would be too, man.
I was like, you know what? I joined the Marine Corps to go places, to see the world. So air traffic control is one of the very, very few careers where you can actually get out and change MOSs. So I went over to logistics and joined 1-6 out of Camp Lejeune in 1990. Very, very beginning of 92. Ended up doing a med float with them. Actually, we were on station when the Yugoslavian conflict was going on in the Adriatic Sea. So before it really kicked up, we were a search and rescue platform. So I was on the USS Guam.
Nice.
With the logistics unit, with the command unit. And we cut circles in the Adriatic for about 6 weeks as a search and rescue platform while Yugoslavia was going on. We were supposed to have gone up to the Ukraine, but, that got canceled. So anyway, man, I could talk forever. In a nutshell, I got back from the Marine Corps. I went to college, got a finance degree, sat behind a finance desk for a year and a half, and I said, "Man, this ain't good. It's not good for my ADD." So, became a police officer in 1999.
That was before they changed. Like, who was the chief back then?
That was wow. I can see his face. I can't think of his name.
It wasn't White, Robert White.
No, White was the next one.
Yeah.
No, it was. Hamilton. I got hired under Hamilton, and then I had a storied career, man. I was on a quick path and doing, kicking butt, doing well. I started a program called the Nuisance Abatement Program. I was using nuisance ordinances to shut down crack houses and drug houses that were in neighborhoods. So that first year, I ended up shutting down like 68 crack houses during the height of the crack epidemic. And in March of 2003, I was awarded LPD's last officer of the year for the department.
Nice. Okay.
So, I had a good career. And then as life has it, 3 weeks later, I'm riding my motorcycle after doing surveillance one night. And I'm riding my motorcycle in the morning, and I hit a bad patch of road and put myself in the ICU for the next 2 months. So you're talking about bittersweet life. I went from being officer of the year to fighting for my life. I mean, I literally, it was, they didn't think I was going to make it. They let my wife into room 9 because they thought.
So that just changed your whole trajectory after that, the accident.
Man, you know what is craziest thing ever? Growing up, I was like, man, I always had this premonition that I'd never live past my early 30s. It's just weird.
Yeah.
And then at 33 years old is when I had that accident. And so, I mean, everybody told me to quit. I didn't walk for 2.5 years. My 34th surgery, I was in ICU for 2 months. And then I had gone from 240 pounds, a bodybuilder, to 185. And then I had to go to a nursing home for like 6 or 8 weeks. I was so weak from losing so much strength. And then after the nursing home, then I went to Fraser Rehab inpatient for 2 or 3 months, and then outpatient another 6 months. So,
yeah, you had a pretty rough going from what the stories that I've heard from you telling me.
Every day was, it was miserable. I was in complete pain constantly, misery. And if it wasn't for my kids that kept me motivated, and the Marine Corps, and playing football, in your head, not to quit.
Yeah.
But so the story goes, after 2.5 years of not walking, my 34th surgery, I elected to have my leg cut off above the knee because I messed up lots of things. And one of them was my knee. So I elected to have the leg cut off above the knee. That was October of 2005. By April of 2006, after doing MMA and jiu-jitsu and all this stuff, lifting weights and getting stronger again, I became one of 2 above me police officers in the entire country, 2006, that were sworn.
That's awesome right there. Just to be one of 2 to come back on full active duty on the police department after being amputated above the knee.
Right.
I mean, that's.
And there was quite a few below the knees, and no offense to all the below knee people that are below knee amputees listening to that out there, but to us above knee amputees, the below knee folks are like, it's a flesh wound. You're missing a foot. You got your leg. You got your knee.
Now, wasn't Carl Brashear, the Navy diver, when he got amputated, he was above the knee, right?
Great story, and great. I'm glad you brought that up, because when I got home from the hospital, I had a really good friend named Kevin Wheatley. Still a good friend, but we were beat partners. And he kept saying, I got a surprise for you. So when I got home from the hospital, from the amputation, because the amputation wasn't, for 2.5 years after the actual accident. He picks up the phone and he calls to me and he hands me the phone. And he goes, Kevin? Yes, sir. He goes, Carl Brashear. How are you doing?
Oh, man, that's awesome.
And so I actually got to talk to Carl. we probably talked 30, 45 minutes, just probably 6 to 8 months before he passed away.
Man, that's awesome.
But you know, it's the same thing. How did you feel? What did you go through? And of course, he had a whole nother dynamic, you know, with being an African American in the Navy. But you know, we had a good conversation, and he was like, "Man, it's just whatever you put your head to, whatever you put your mind to." And I guess that's really why I'm excited to be here tonight, is because it's you know, I want all your listeners to know that, man, life's going to throw you some adversities, life's going to throw you some stuff, and it's just, you're going to have to make up your mind whether you're going to be a victim of life. You're going to have to keep on moving, you know. Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. But you know, after April of 06, after I was resworn as one of 2 above the amputees, I happened to be in the air unit at the time when I was flying. Observer, I was an observer co-pilot. So I started taking flying lessons. So I actually got 40 hours, 35 hours of flying the police helicopter.
Oh, that's awesome.
One-legged, actually logged time. And then I was 1 week out from, you know, life has a way of kicking me in the crotch sometimes.
Right,
you know?
right.
And that's why I guess I'm so good at starting over at square one, you know?
Right.
1 week out from soloing in the helicopter is when the police helicopter crashed. I think it was 07.
Oh, man.
And it shut down all flight training. And about that time, I got caught up in some politics, department politics, and they ended up putting me over in homicide.
Yeah, and that's when you became a detective, right?
Yes. So in 07, I became a homicide detective.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to shout out a couple people.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
we got Mr. Martin Ty Cobb. We got Albert Hero. We got the Triple Threat Vet Podcast.
Absolutely.
Those guys, man, they're my brothers from another mother. That podcast, if you haven't checked out Triple Threat Vet Podcast, you need to go check them out. Matter of fact, I'm wearing their shirt right now. Same flag, same oath.
Awesome.
So go check out Got Your Six Culture, or go to same flag, same oath. You can get it on there as well. Michael Whitlatch is watching from Wheeling, West Virginia. He and his wife, she's the state captain for the Patriot Guard, and he's a road captain for the Patriot Guard in West Virginia. And then you got Mr. Jamie Boone, who's down in Bardstown, Kentucky, or he might be in E-Town. But I grew up with Jamie. We went to high school together. And then, of course, you know, Rick Ames was already on here. Thank you guys for coming on, watching the show. First one of the year. I'm excited to be back. We got a steady lineup of great content coming up with guests like with Kevin, and tomorrow I got Dr. Teresa Lawson coming on. She's another Marine Corps veteran. She started Movement RX. Then I got the Roll Call Foundation next Sunday, which Kevin is on the board there. But today's all about Kevin, not about the Roll Call Foundation. So yeah, we got to, man, I tell you what, the lineup just keeps going. And like I said earlier, I had some people reach out to me from California, from downtown Los Angeles. I just had somebody reach out to me from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
That's awesome.
So, you know, I got people reaching out to me wanting to come on the show. And that's because, you know, you guys are spreading the word and stuff. Right. And Mr. Tim Ho-Ryan, what's going on, brother? Thank you. We would do it again any day of the week. So now that, you know, you got your flight, you were doing the flight stuff, you got the helicopter crashed, and then now you're a detective with homicide.
Right.
And what a lot of people don't realize back then, First 48 was real big. And Louisville was one of the major cities that was on First 48.
Right.
And you were on First 48. How many times were you on First 48?
I was a homicide detective 2007 to 2010. First 48 came on. They hung around with us for a couple of years. My brother, who you know, he's also an Army vet, who always makes fun of me, and he told me one time, he said, "You know, you're on 14 episodes." I had no clue. So I guess, you know, as much as he says he hates me, he loves me. He loves you. Yeah. He still wants to see his little brother on TV. You know, but you know, the cool part about the First 48 was so yeah, I did get on the First 48. My big show was I think season 10. It was called A Twist of Fate. It was kind of cool because it was our episode was the very first hour-long episode that they had ever done. And it was just because it was involved a mom and a dad. They got killed in the projects from little children, and just a lot of dynamics to it. But little did I know, towards the end, at the very end, we were actually nominated for an Emmy, and it was ourselves up against Intervention.
Okay.
And of course, Intervention beat us out. But I thought that was kind of cool. But you know, two things that was kind of cool about being on the first 48. Number one is it kind of my kids. I wrote a book called The Serious Business of Laughing at Life, and that book I wrote because my kids were 3 and 6 at the time of my accident, so they really didn't understand the trauma and the turmoil that our family went through. It flipped us upside down. My wife and I, we probably should have been divorced 20 times. We're going on 30 years of marriage.
Oh man, that's awesome.
But I wrote, you know, I really wanted to. So the book was written for the kids, but the cool part about the first 48 was that my kids were going to get to see their dad in action, on TV as a police, you know, as a homicide detective.
I bet you thought that was cool, huh?
Oh, they did, yeah. And they still play that episode to this day. About once every 2 months, I get somebody text me, "Hey, I saw you on TV." You know,
nice.
I'm like, man, I wish I had a nickel for every time I played that, because you know we didn't get paid anything. But the other cool part was that I was able to talk about a lot of things, my accident, what I went through, my hardships, and man, I tell you, if there's anybody that if there's anybody listening tonight that's on a podcast, you know, I'd be more than happy to. I'd love to come on and tell you my story. Not because it's about me, but because it's just a story of perseverance, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
It's just kind of like, you know, my wife and I laugh, and and this is at the expense of humility. My wife and I laugh because I'm kind of like a Forrest Gump. You know, I've done so many crazy things in my life, even as a one-legged person. It never, you know, I just haven't let life stop me. So,
well, that's when I first met you. We talked on the phone first, and you were telling me about who you were, and I didn't really know who you were at the time, and I was like,
it's a lot.
Yeah. So I started researching you, and I was like, man, this dude's done this, this dude's done this, he's done this, and you know, all with being, you know, amputee above the knee, and I'm like, dude, if that's not a story of perseverance or whatever, I can't even say that word, but dude, yeah, I mean, that's just simply amazing what you can accomplish when you set your mind to it. Right. As long as you don't get inside your head and say, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that. You're living example right here, you know, beside me. Hey, you can handle anything that the world throws at you.
Right.
As long as you have the mindset, I can do this, I can get through that.
And you know, in my book, you know, hey, what's up, Dale? Dale Kruger and I are good friends as well. You know, I've always tried to, like I said, my story's not about me. My story's just about, man, you just don't give up. And I've always tried to be real transparent in the book in the book I wrote. And I'm not pushing this book because I get $1 per copy if I ever say it. So it's going to take me a heck of a long time to be a millionaire. So don't get me wrong, I'm not pushing this book. It's just, this is where I chronicled everything. And you know, I get really in the feel goods of people, because I try to identify with other people, you know, and now and today when I mentor new amputees and stuff, I tell them, the very first thing I tell new amputees is, man, I'm gonna be honest with you, it sucks. Every day you wake up, it sucks. You look down, you're missing a foot, you're missing an arm, you're missing a leg. It sucks. So go ahead and get that through your head now. Yeah. Just wake up, get that 30 seconds of, man, this sucks, out of your life. Put your leg on, keep moving on with life, you know?
Yeah. And
I did that in homicide. And then in 2010, I got promoted to police sergeant, and they put me back down in the West end of Louisville, where, you know, I cut my teeth in 99, and I got back down there, and I was a police sergeant for the last 9 years, and I was able to retire with a pension.
Nice. So did they when you got promoted to sergeant, did they put you back on the beat? Is that what they did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was a beat officer.
Okay.
Or beat sergeant, yeah. But, you know, I wasn't, you know, I'd learned to run with the leg, and I learned to do everything that I figured they might ask me to try to do.
Right.
You know, first getting back on the department, because there was a lot of politics involved with that too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I could run and stuff, but you know, when I became a sergeant, it was kind of an excuse. I didn't have to.
Right. Now, the other officer, you said at one time you were one of two. Was he back reinstated before you were, or was he after?
He was, and you've probably seen some news stories. He was a California Highway Patrol motorcycle officer, I
That's
believe.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
And he was above me.
Okay.
But it was him and I. And the cool part about it was, man, in 2006, when I got reinstated, because it was such a big news deal, the AP press got a hold of it, and it became a news story all over the country.
Yeah, nationally,
and over in Europe a little bit. So I started getting a lot of phone calls from people, and that's the one thing I definitely want to express while we're talking now. At the end of this thing, I'll give you my emails. I'll give you everything you need to do to get a hold of me, because if there's someone out there that's a new amputee, old amputee, have issues or whatever, need to talk, want to talk, feel free to reach out to me. You know, this is just what God wants me to do, is help other people, and that's what I do. So
yeah, that's awesome.
But you know, it was, so after it became a news story, a lot of people reached out to me from different places and different countries, and I was able to deal with a lot of mentor a lot of other cops
That's awesome.
that had, you know, that had lost their leg in a traffic accident or something. So today it's not such a newsworthy story anymore, because there's quite a few of us out there.
Right.
But back in 2006, when everyone just thought you should give up life, you know, if you lost a limb.
Right. It was a big story. Yeah. That's kind of like with Carl Brashear, you know, when he became the first Navy diver to be amputated above the knee and returned back to active duty. He was not many that had done that.
Right.
And you were on the forefront of it with being a law enforcement officer and being amputated above the knee and be able to come back into full duty. I mean, that's
14 years I was above knee amputee. And, you know, and they didn't hand it to me. I had to drive a car, I had to shoot a gun, I had to fight people, you know, I had to effect arrests, I had to, you know, roll around on a mat, and
just so you make sure you did everything.
Fight. And you know what? I was not going to come back on the police department unless I could fight.
Right.
Unless I could get in there and you know, defend somebody. So really good friend of mine named Bill Weedman, his son Brent Weedman used to fight MMA. Actually, I think he fought in the Bellator League.
Okay.
So I got my leg amputated in October. Probably by November, I had towards the end of November, I had a prosthetic that halfway fit. Bill calls me up one day, says, "Man, I want you to come to my karate gym and let's learn how to do MMA and stuff like that."
Heck
So,
yeah, man.
So for the next 5 months, I fought MMA, and you know, I kind of miss getting punched in the face. You know, I think everyone in the world should get punched in the face at least once. You know,
Yeah, at least once or twice. Yeah,
it'll do you some good.
I mean, there's some people now that I just want to punch in the face. You know, just walk up to them, just punch them, or throw punch them.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, I think that's what's wrong with society today, is more kids should have got punched in the face.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Growing up, because you know, I knew I've always been a bodybuilder, weightlifter, and that's actually what saved my life. My accident involved hitting a tree on a motorcycle at 60 miles an hour. So
you hit a wet patch or something like that.
No, I hit a bad bridge that was sinking. The approaches were sinking.
Yep. Jump. Oof.
I lost control. I sped up. I was holding on for dear life, holding onto the throttle for dear life, hanging off. Bike sped up to about 60. I hit a tree. Oh Lord have mercy. All these veterans. So you know, so it was, so I hit a tree at 60 miles an hour on the motorcycle, and I'm gonna tell you, it hurt. I thought I was paralyzed at first because I couldn't feel anything, and then finally, I was never so more relieved to be able to feel the blood.
All right, Jamie, be good, bud.
See you, brother. You know, I was never so relieved to be able to feel yourself bleeding out as much as I was. But you know, for us deer hunters and stuff like that, a friend of mine came out and did a accident reconstruction, not officially or anything, but he was a police officer, and that's why I know I hit the tree at 60, you know, and all that stuff. But he had taken pictures, and it looked like you'd gutted a deer.
Ooh.
You know, it's just that much blood there.
I can't imagine. I mean,
Oh, it hurt.
Well, thankfully you're still alive and you're
Yeah.
here to tell your story. And I equate that to the man upstairs because he had a plan for you.
No, absolutely.
And a lot of people, might not like me saying that, but he's always got a plan for us.
Right.
And if it was your time, it was your time. But for you, it was not your time. And you're here to tell your story, and you're here to mentor, other law enforcement officers that are amputees and other people within the community. And, like I said earlier, you're part of the board for the Roll Call Foundation, which is doing amazing things. And we got Mr. Don on here. Don right here. Don, I don't think he wants to punch you in the face, bro. But I mean, just the things that you have accomplished in your life, it's inspiring, and I can see why people will gravitate towards you when you're telling your story. It's kind of like my buddy James Thornton with Warrior Rounds.
Right.
When he tells his story, you just gravitate,
Right.
and it's just like, holy how. We got Miss Candace on here tonight.
On too.
What's up, Miss Candace? How are you tonight?
Oh Lord, I forgot what I was gonna say now. There's so much to say.
Oh, there is, man. With you being a mentor, and you've done that ever since what, 14 plus years or whatnot.
Right.
I mean, how many police officers have you mentored in that time?
Well, I mean, the amputee community is really small in America. There's probably at that time, there's probably almost 2 million amputees. Today, there's a little bit more than that. But when you talk about amputees and then police officers that are actually trying to get on the job again, at that time when I lost my leg as a police officer, I was told by everyone to quit, to give up, to retire. I actually had I had one doctor put in my medical records I would be addicted to opiates the rest of my life because my pain was just uncontrollable. I was in constant pain for 2.5 years. I mean, and I'm talking about constant,
Right.
I had him say, I never walk again. I never do anything again. I had one doctor tell me, don't ever worry about being a cop again. I mean, these are the doctors, and that's why, I respect doctors, and I'll tell you a funny story is when I meet new doctors and say, but I just, all these people told me that I couldn't do it. And that's what they told all the other cops around the country because it's such a high demand, it's such a strenuous and high demand job. But when I did it and I broke the ice and I jumped through all the hurdles and all the legal hoops and all that stuff. That's when people started reaching out saying, man, it is possible. And I gave those folks hope. So probably 24 cops from Africa, Europe, America, because it's just not a very regular occurrence.
Right.
That people are losing limbs and wanting to get back on. But
so my dear friend Doc, aka Thomas, Navy corpsman, said they're doctors, not gods. I would agree with you, man. When the doctors are telling you, hey, you'll never do this, you'll never do that, I don't understand why they tell people that.
I don't either.
They're supposed to be saying, all right, you can walk again, or they should be telling you that instead of knocking you down. And I think that's, from that aspect, that's so wrong. Because they're putting the doubt in your brain right from the get-go, which I can understand also that they don't want to give you false hope too, just in case.
Correct.
But in a situation like yours where you were a Marine first, you were a bodybuilder and stuff like that, you already had that mindset, well, I'm going to come back from this. And luckily you didn't take or heed their advice that you would never walk again or you would never do your job again.
Right.
And you're moved on. I mean, I think that's simply amazing.
And I've had 45 surgeries related to this accident, all directly related to the accident. 45 total. The first 16 and the first 16 were like in the first 2 weeks, but and I try to tell people that now that I mentor, I'm like, look, I know what your doctors are saying. I get it, but they don't know you. and they don't know who you are as a person. And let me tell you, and when I talk to new amputees, I tell them, look, this thing is going to be 95% mental and 5% physical. I promise you.
Yeah.
I just mentored another guy that when I first started talking to him earlier this summer, he lost his foot. Life was over. He was never going to fish again. He was never going to do anything again. I talked to him 2 days ago. He got back on at Ford.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's back on his job at Ford.
That's awesome.
And he just thought life was going to be over. And we need people. We need people like me that are going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. Because I'm going to tell you everything.
Right.
I'm not going to sugarcoat anything because I want you to be successful in life, and I want you to learn from everything that I've been through. Because if I don't help teach you what I've been through, then it makes what I've been through worth nothing.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, my struggles have been immense. The adversities I've overcome are crazy. And if I can't share it with anyone, then it gives no meaning to what I've been through.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
and I do think that God puts each of us through adversities. Not for a couple of reasons, but I think one, maybe hopefully it'll bring us closer to him. But number two, so we can teach other people.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely puts you through trials and tribulations as you're going through life, just so you can teach somebody, that might be going through it later on in life. Like a prime example, I got married when I was in the Marines. I was young, dumb, stupid.
We all do.
I came back and I caught her in bed with another guy, and I turned around and walked away.
So
most Marines would have probably killed both of them. And for some reason, I was like, I'm out, deuces. I turned around, walked out, got in my car, went up to my buddy's house and knocked on his front door. And his wife answered the door and she says, "Hey, I got to tell you something." I said, "No, you don't." I said, "I just caught her." She said, "Yeah, she's been cheating on you the whole time." I was like, so, and I tell like young military members now when I talk to them, don't get married while you're in the military.
Right.
Not even if it's your high school sweetheart, because Jody's going to be around the corner. I mean, Jody's always there, always lurking in the bushes. So, I try to tell them that. And, she came at me with a steak knife, and I've never hit a female ever in my life because I was raised, don't hit females. Well, she came at me with a steak knife and she was going to kill me. And I took I took the knife away from her and I held her up against the wall, with a forearm. I just held her up against the wall. I said, "If you ever come at me with a knife again, I will hurt you."
Mm-hmm.
And I reared back and I hit the wall right next to her head. And luckily I didn't hit the stud because I didn't break my hand. But, and after that, man, it was just downhill. And, thankfully, I didn't do nothing stupid enough to, get in trouble with the law or anything like that. And it's just, God, he does trials and tribulations, and you just have to work through them. And that's what we got to do. So Michael Whitlatch, she says, "Your drive to continue to be a law officer speaks highly of yourself."
Well, thank you, Michael. It was really, the drive gave me to be a cop again, especially being, 3 weeks after I became Officer of the Year, and I never even got to enjoy that.
Yeah.
That was a drive, and I was really good at it, and I enjoyed helping people. My philosophy, and especially as a sergeant, was the object of police officers, is not to arrest people. It's not it's to help people. So,
and then Doc says, "Human will is powerful. Never underestimate the will to live."
Right.
And you are right, Doc. So prime example, my buddy Doc there, Navy corpsman during Desert Storm, came back home, first responder. I believe he was an EMT. And, he started having his PTS and he was home ridden.
Right.
Like he couldn't leave his house. And now Doc's out volunteering. He does equine therapy, and equine therapy's brought him out of the shell. And he's out volunteering. He's out doing radio interviews and stuff like that. I mean, Doc's story, man, is simply amazing too, because his wife and kids will tell you he's a whole different person.
Right.
And it kind of goes back to where, after your accident, how you overcame that adversity, and you're now to where you're at now, helping people out. And
But it wasn't without a rocky road. I'll be honest with you. You know, I have an analogy that if you ever get to talk to me at any length, you know, I have lots of analogies for lots of things. I'm a really analytical person. I'm not thought about every part of life that I've ever been through, everything that's ever happened to me. But you know, I grew up. I'm from Pensacola, Florida. I grew up in the South, and back in those days, you know, of course, they're still there now. But I'm saying when I was a kid, that you know, you would take a stick, walk up to a red ant bed, barefooted, no shirt on, sunburn. Dried up mayonnaise or something on your face from lunch, and that was our entertainment, you know, as poor kids in the South. So we'd take a big stick and stir up a red ant bed and just watch the thousands and thousands of ants go crazy, you know. And so at that time as a kid, you know, you look at it and you're like, man, there's thousands and probably more than that ants just going crazy, and it looks like complete chaos. And it looks like total chaos, and nothing makes sense. And everything's just going wild. But then, you know, as we grow and we mature and we learn that every one of those ants in that ant bed actually has a purpose. And you know, I often say, I wonder if God's just kind of sitting back, and as he looks down on earth, it looks like a red ant bed that he just stir up, you know. Because, you know, we're all trying to do our own thing. We're trying to come up with our own solutions to life and our own purposes, but yet at the same time, we all have a purpose. Every one of us that we're talking to that's hearing us tonight, we have our purpose in life. We just have to find, and every one of those ants in that ant bed has a purpose. So when you start breaking down, you know, each one of them having a purpose, and it makes a little more sense, and it's not so chaotic, you know.
And no, I agree with you. I think we all have a purpose in life, and like doing this podcast, this is my purpose. I don't know what made me think of doing a podcast when I did come up with the idea of doing one, but I can tell you the connections that I've made from this podcast, like the Triple Threat Vet podcast, the Misfit Nation podcast, the Heroes Media Group, and all the people that I've interviewed and all the people that's reached out that are coming on, like the Roll Call Foundation and Tab Bartlett, who she does a podcast called The Oath We Took podcast, and Dr. Lawson is coming on tomorrow, and you know the other episodes we got coming up. I mean, it's simply amazing to see what my purpose is. You know, helping veterans like I have been, like Doc, Michael, when he was having struggles trying to get a service dog. So Michael's from Wheeling, West Virginia. He was trying to get a service dog, and they told him he wouldn't get one till 2025 because that's how far back they were. Well, we started making, you know, connections here, and he now has a service dog that is in training.
Very nice.
Which is amazing, because he wasn't expecting to get one till 2025. So my purpose in life now, besides my normal day job and taking care of my wife and kids, is doing this podcast and getting this information out and sharing stories like your story, or the Hope Project down in Florida, or Wayward Warrior Ranch in Bristol, Virginia, or Cover Sunscreen, or so that's my story. My purpose is to get that information out there.
Right.
So,
and then, so, you know, the other thing is, I said, you know, I've always tried to be transparent, and the other story I share with people, and I'm not afraid to share, and you've probably seen it on Facebook and the local, the Mount Washington stuff. But, you know, when I retired in 2019, I wasn't ready to retire, to be honest with you. I was going to work a couple more years because I was working some good overtime. I had a good spot as a sergeant, you know, but they kept changing the pension. The pension kept changing rapidly during that year. And so July 1st came, and I made the decision I'm going to work a couple more years. By the end of July, I was getting my retirement plan, and, you know, pretty much coming to the end of my career that I loved and I adored. So, you know, I got home. I've actually, another thing I've done is, you know, I paint and I write and I do all kinds, you know, I play music, I write music. But another thing I had done is I'd restored a 67 Camaro convertible in my garage.
I seen it red and white, right?
Orange and tan, yeah. And so I learned how to do all that. I did it from the ground up, didn't build the engine, a couple other things, but other than that, I did everything. So I would sit in the garage and I would have a drink and I would tinker with my car, after I retired. And I was kind of doing it out of boredom, but just to kind of get things done, on the car and get it finished. But as time progressed, what happened was all the things that I had seen, and I've seen over probably 400 dead people and children in almost every state that you can see. And so what started happening was all those demons, my PTSD started coming back. I see Candace trying to be funny. Yeah, we eat crayons. Okay, red's our favorite color. It's right.
Got them hanging up.
Candace trying to make a joke. Anyway, so next thing I know, everything that I've seen, all my demons start coming back.
Yeah,
and then I started drinking to medicate, and I went down that rabbit hole probably for a good year and a half. And PTSD is real, people. Let me tell you, yes, PTSD is real. It's real in first responders. It's real in the military. It's real. And you know what? There was these two guys on Facebook, and I won't say their names. I should, but one of them's a former Marine, and they were both bragging about how PTSD, just handle it, just get over it, move on with life, don't bring your work home, all this other stuff, and I got onto them. I'm like, man, if y'all are so damn good at dealing with your own PTSD and demons and stuff, then why don't you come out here and help other people? Why don't you help other police officers, EMS, fire that have seen some things? If you're so good at it, and I'm kind of throwing this out to everybody that's listening tonight, if you're so good at your own PTSD, then that's your calling to help other people with their PTSD. Because honestly, there's nobody in the military, veteran, there's never a reason why a veteran should not help another veteran. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you.
And so I had to deal with those demons and everything I'd seen and all and every day I wake up, I still see dead something, and there's something that reminds me of what I've seen, the tragedies that I've saw. But I mean, that's something else that I want people to understand is that you can have PTSD. You don't have to be in the military. You don't have to be a first responder. I mean, you can be driving home with your kids in the car and you can witness an accident and see somebody tossed out or something. That's PTSD, people, and it's real. So the thing that needs to happen is we need to stop stigmatizing PTSD and mental illness, and just start accepting it as normal, as me missing a leg or I mean, not that that's normal, but
it's normal to you.
Kind of sucks. But no, just it's another illness.
Yeah.
PTSD is another illness, and it's another thing. So I had to get past those demons. Probably a year and a half ago, I finally pulled myself out and got to the VA. The VA in Louisville is really good. For any people can complain all they want, but I talk to people from around the country.
Yeah,
the VA in Louisville is good, people. I'm telling you.
So as you know, I'm starting my VA journey.
Yeah,
and I went back in December. I had an appointment in December. So the original appointment was December 7th at 3:30 in the afternoon, which is after I get off work. Now, I've told this story before. So that I go in on Friday, do my blood work. Later that day, I get a phone call. Hey, we need to move your appointment. I was like, okay, as long as it's after 3 o'clock, I can make it. She goes, well, we got Monday, December 4th at 3:30. I was like, fine, I'll take it. So, it just moved it from Friday to Monday. I was okay with that. So I leave the VA that morning to go to work. As I'm working, a couple hours later, I get a phone call. Hey, we need to change your appointment for December 4th to an earlier appointment or telehealth. Right. I was like, well, I can't do an earlier appointment because I'm at work. So I said, let's do telehealth. She goes, well, she said, let me check with your provider, make sure everything's good, and I'll call you back. Well, she never did call me back. Well, the next morning on Saturday, I get a text message. You have been scheduled for telehealth appointment, such and such at 3:30.
Right.
Press Y to confirm, to cancel, or so I said yes, and then it got confirmed. So I was like, all right, cool. So I waited till Monday afternoon. I still hadn't got the link to log in for the telehealth. So I called Stony Brook and I was like, am I, still set up for my appointment? They're like, well, you're supposed to come here in person. I was like, no, I was told it was going to be telehealth. So they're like, no, you got to be here in person. So I was like, all right, is it still 3:30? Julia, the chat is getting chippy with Doc and Candace. But they're like, well, you got to be here by 3:30. I was like, well, I'm on my way. I was told it was going to be telehealth. So at 3:00, I'm rushing to get from Fern Valley and Preston to Stony Brook. So I get there at 3:31, walk in the front door. The guy says, you here to check in? I was like, yeah, I got an appointment. He goes, what's your last name, your last four? So he goes, well, your appointment's canceled. I was like, no, I just talked to somebody 30 minutes ago and they told me that I had to be here in person. He goes, no, your appointment's got canceled. So my blood's already boiling because, first it was December 7th. Then they moved it to December 4th. Then they said, no, it's going to be telehealth. Then they said, no, you got to be here. So I get there and my blood's boiling. And finally, I did get to go back and I was talking with the doctor. Well, they're doing away with all in-person appointments after 3:00 at Stony Brook. Everything's going to be telehealth after that. And I'm like, well, what about the people that have a normal day job that work from 7:00 in the morning to 8:00 or 7:00 to 3:00 or 9 to 5? What do these guys do? My wife. Yeah, if I'm not 20 minutes early, I'm late. So yes, you are correct, Julie. So I'm like, what are these people going to do? They're, well, you have to take off work. I'm like, what if you can't take off work? Right. If your job won't allow you to take off work to go to a doctor's appointment. So my blood was boiling, and they did blood pressure on me, and they said, well, your blood pressure's high. And I was like, well, I wonder why.
Right.
And so she said, well, we'll test it again here in a little bit. I'm like, 20 minutes later, she's testing again. I was like, it ain't going to be different. And it was the same as what it was when I went in there. And I've been taking my blood pressure ever since then because you got high blood pressure.
Right.
It's been normal ever since. And I'm like, what the hell? It's because the VA. Now, I'm not saying the VA is bad because I've heard great stories about the VA system here in Louisville compared to other cities, like you had said. There's some places where the VA is completely trash. But luckily the VA here in Louisville, with all the different clinics and then Zorn Avenue, it's been okay so far. And like I said, I'm still starting not getting.
They went to, and I'll say this out loud because I've been doing the VA probably just 2 years, maybe now. I waited till, I'm going to be 55 in April. So I waited that long before I even started my stuff too. But recently, and I've told the providers this, and I've told people this recently, the VA has gone to a different system where different scheduling system, and it's become more complex and it's become more difficult.
Yeah. And
if anyone out there is working with the VA and has any IT information or works with the IT, I'm telling you, it's just not for me, but it's other veterans. This new system that the VA is using in Louisville has made life a little more difficult for all of us.
Yeah.
And
that's the app that they have.
Well, it's just you used to be able to call directly, and now a lot of times it goes through a central clearing, and they send you off different places.
Oh, yeah.
So it's become more difficult now. Once you get in the system and get rolling with it, then it's not such a bad thing.
Yeah.
Actually, once you're in the system and you're rolling with it, they'll send you a card and a phone call and a text for every appointment.
Yeah.
So they do pretty well, but it's not bad. And in the mental health department, it's pretty good.
See, I got a community consult for mine,
right?
Because they wanted me.
Well, originally, because you're not in the system yet, right?
Right.
So, so I got my bit. Yeah. That's
even after I get in, I'm in the system because I had my, with at the Stony Brook, I went and seen the therapist there a couple times.
Okay.
And she says, well, you're not so severe that you need to be, what's the 12-month one that they have for the therapy.
Yeah.
She said, you don't need that one, but you need something more than I can give you. So I was like, all right, well, I need something that's going to be conducive to my work schedule because of I can't leave work early.
Right.
So I said, can I do a community consult so I can go outside and get a provider out? And they did. So I got my first one. It's set up for February. So I'm excited. It's over on Newburgh Road. I don't remember exactly where, but I got that set up, and hopefully I can start working through my demons that I have with my PTS. And you kind of hit on it a little bit ago with, like you said, seeing a car accident would trigger your PTS. With me, it's a lot of my stuff reverts back to when I was in Haiti. Certain smells, certain sounds will trigger, will trigger that. And it's just like, holy cow.
But man, I'm going to tell you this. I'll tell everybody else out there with PTSD. The way you get over PTSD, you don't get over it. The way you learn how to deal with it more is because, man, we're all really good at taking little bits of negativity and boxing them up and throwing them in the back of our brain. And, another analogy I have is, like life is like driving, dealing with life is like you're driving down the road in a pickup truck. Anytime you encounter something positive, throw it in the bed of the bus. Encounter something negative, throw it in the bed of the truck. And you keep moving. As long as you keep moving forward, everything stays by that tailgate, right?
Yeah.
But when you slam on your brakes, i.e. retire, whatever you want to call it, all that stuff comes up to you and revisits, but not just individually, but all at one time.
Yeah.
So when you have idle time and it's sitting around and you have idle time and you're sitting around, all these things are coming back and get you done. Now, the thing that is going to help all of us, especially as veterans, to kind of ease that is we about it. Sorry, that's my son trying to call me. He doesn't realize I'm doing this. We just we have to talk about it more, and that's the thing with every one of us as veterans, man. I mean, we have just got to, because we're all equipped. It's like the old story, cops, the thin blue line. Everybody says, there's a thin blue line. There's a thin blue line. Cops only hang out with cops. Well, there's a lot of truth to that, to be frank.
Yeah.
There is a lot of truth to the thin blue line, but the thin blue line is a thin blue line because of this, and really not a whole lot of other reasons. It's not because we're hiding things or corruption or whatever, because I didn't want to work with anybody. I don't want to work with a bad cop anymore than anybody wants to work with a bad employee as well. But the thin blue line is the thin blue line because there's no one else that can really say, hey, you remember that kid that we saw the other day that got his head decapitated by that bumper, or we saw that dude. I mean, I've seen people drugged down the road and sanded in half. Their entire bodies were sanded in half. Yeah. It looks like that book that, they have the overlays that as you turn the pages, it goes farther and farther down in his body. I mean, I've seen crazy stuff like that, but I can't go home and talk to my wife about it because she doesn't understand it. Yeah. I can't go home and talk to most people about it because people don't understand the things we've seen. Right. It's the same with the military. It's the same with combat vets. I mean, I've seen 7.62 rounds take off heads and knees and body parts and stuff. So the thin blue line is the thin blue line only because no one else can really understand what we're talking about. Yeah. Otherwise we shut up and we box stuff up and we put it in the back of our head and we don't speak of it. Yeah. And then that's when it starts haunting us all the time. Yeah. The more we can exercise, the more we can put grease on that memory and exercise that memory and talk about it more. Yeah. The less it becomes traumatic, the less it becomes, overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Because we keep regurgitating it when we don't have to hold it in our heads. Yes. So,
and I say that all the time. Right here, Michael says, "Time by myself is my enemy." Having too much time to think about those things. Yeah. Yep. It's idle minds. This is the way I look at it. Idle minds and veterans don't mix.
No, hell no.
And sometimes I try to tell my wife, if I sit too long and my mind goes idle, my demons creep in, right? And she can tell you, she's on here right now, and that's the same with police officers. That's the same with EMT, first responders, firefighters. Right. The stuff that we see, and that's kind of why we kind of gravitate towards each other. Police officers hanging out with other police officers, first responders hanging out with first responders, veterans hanging out with veterans, is because those people know what we've been through or have been through something very similar. And when idle minds and veterans come together, it's never good. That's why, they say 22 a day. It's probably more like 40 a day. That is just not, 22 is what's reported.
Right. But, but the thing is here, but here's the stigma that we're still dealing with on a daily basis with veterans and first responders. And, I don't know, if we need to start a campaign for this year in 2024, this is huge because we still are dealing with the tough guy syndrome, unfortunately or fortunately, or however you want to. But the fact of the matter is law enforcement is still male dominated field. Yep. So is the military. And, but at the same token, what comes along with that is we're all tough guys. We're all type A, probably a little bit. Yeah. We wouldn't have joined the military or been a first responder. We're all tough. We're all going to give each other a hard time of stupid jokes, and we really need to break that stigma. Like I said, those two guys that are like, well, they can get over their PTSD. They don't bring their shit home. I can promise you.
They do.
I know they do. I was talked to a veteran, a police officer and a veteran. He's an Army veteran. He was involved in the shooting 15 years ago. I remember when it happened. He was a SWAT officer here locally. And he just refuses to believe that he has PTSD.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take much. I simply can talk to his wife and she'll tell you, or, the people on the outside looking in. And us veterans, man, we're hard-headed. We're like, no, we're tough guys. We can handle this shit. Right.
Yeah.
But no, and so, and especially when we have guys like, I was talking about earlier that are in your ears saying, man, I don't take that stuff home. I'm a tough,
right.
Man, drop that stuff, dude. You ain't a badass, none of y'all are badasses. I mean, mental health is just what it is, man.
Yes, sir.
And we need to really break that stigma, this tough guy shit. Because I've been a tough guy my whole life, my entire life.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna sit here and look at you and I'm gonna tell you, it got me. And it affected my family, it affected my marriage, it affected my life. I found myself drinking every day, and if I died one day from overdose, I wasn't gonna blow my brains up. But if I laid there and looking at the stars, and one day my family found me dead on my hill in my backyard, that's what was gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
So so I've been down that road too. So I kind of understand that.
All right. So Doc is wanting us to bring him on. So Doc, I'm going to send you, if I can remember which one your email is.
Do this.
Yeah, it's been a while. I don't remember what his email is.
I'll make sure my ringer's turned on.
No, you're good. Doc, you're going to have to give me your email. Text me your email, Doc. So while we're waiting on that, I'm going to go ahead and pay the bills real quick. My sponsors here, I want to thank them, talents.com and Louisville Local Entertainment, both great organizations. Yep. And what they do for musicians and, vendors and promoters and, venues and stuff like that is simply amazing. Doc, text me your email and I will bring you on. I think you sent it to me before, but that was last year. So I'm gonna go ahead and play these two videos real quick.
Owner of Talents here, and I just want to say that we are ecstatic to be a major sponsor of Homefront Sit Rep, a community that is ran by veterans and made for veterans. So thank you for tuning in. Talents was formed in order to create a music scene that was together in the form of a collective, so that no one has to do everything on their own. And guess what? We've been doing this for free for over a year. So please go and check out Talents through Facebook or through our official website at www.talenttalents.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for tuning in to Homefront Sit Rep, a veteran-owned and operated podcast.
My name's Rick Ames. I own Louisville Local Entertainment, a company for music shows, promotions, and bookings in the Louisville music scene. As a veteran, it's my honor to support and sponsor local veteran-owned businesses such as Homefront Sit Rep, made by veterans for veterans. So if you're in the music business and need some help booking or promoting a show for free, look me up. Louisville Local Entertainment. And thanks for tuning in to Homefront Sit Rep.
And we're back. Yeah, so check out talenttalents.com and Louisville Local Entertainment with Rick and Chris Hawks there. Doc, I'm getting ready to send you an email. Hopefully that last one had sound. On my end it didn't, but hopefully that last one had sound. Doc, I'm going to send you an invite so we can bring you on. So give me 1 second here. There we go. Send. Message sent. All right, Doc, that email should be coming your way, Doc. And then we're going to go back here to the comments because Kevin wants to highlight a few of them here. So this one right here, Kevin said, so my wife said, yes, Kevin, you are so right. Your big hearts and willingness to run through the battle, whatever that may be, also kept you from caring for yourselves.
Right. And I wanted to, yeah, Julie's exactly right there. And the other thing is first responders and veterans is man, we are really good at helping lots and lots of other people, but we're really, really bad at helping ourselves or recognizing our shortcomings or when we need our help ourselves, So I just think this year, collectively, all of us veterans that are listening, we need to try to work on just that stigma of PTSD. And of course, the thing about PTSD is it's become an overused term. It got, caught on going on 20 years now from people, from all the kids, all the folks coming back from Afghanistan and everything. So now it gets overused, I know. So it's kind of been washed over as far as the real meaning behind it. But I just think that that's something that we all need to work on, for each other.
Welcome to the stage, Doc. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. You guys
I
got
can't
a good.
hear you, brother.
How are you, Doc? I know you.
Hold on, I can't hear him. Can y'all hear Doc? Because I can't hear Doc. Hold on, Doc. Let's see if it might be my end here. Candace, can you hear Doc?
It says everybody can see me.
Audio. Let's see. Doc, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear y'all.
Oh, we can hear you now. All right,
Gotcha.
cool. We got you.
You guys got a great show going on. I just want to make just a couple points about my PTS. Is when I was a workaholic working, EMS and the fire department and at the VA, I worked there too. And my PTS didn't really hit me till I got retired, medically retired. And then when you're by yourself and you don't have your shipmates or your partner or that camaraderie that we had when we were in the service and we have on people on job, it is when the PTS really hits you. And that's when you need help the most, because you're, like you said, David, you're isolated at home. You're not doing anything. And then all these intrusive thoughts just creep into your head, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Right.
So, I'm like, I got retired. I lost 4 jobs in 3 days. And because of all the stuff that I was going through with work and everything, and not being able to keep up and pull my load. But when I got home and I was sitting down for the first couple of days, I was like, this is pretty great. Well, then that hit me, and it was like, holy smokes, this is not good. I don't have anybody to talk to. I don't have anybody to joke with. You know, like on the police department, you'd go to a scene and you would actually laugh and make fun of it. But that's sometimes how people handle it.
Yeah.
When you don't have your partner to bounce that off of, what do you do?
Well, you know, I will. I remember years ago we were victims of that as well. The news loved to film us laughing, and the fact of the matter is, Doc, that 99.9% of the time we were not even talking about that. We were talking about the last weekend. We were talking about going out at the FOP, the Christmas party, something stupid, you know.
Right.
But the news loved to portray us as we're sitting around laughing about these dead kids. The very first dead one I had was Felicia Jefferson in 2001, maybe. And that was the very first thing they did. You know, we're all sitting around laughing and carrying on about something else. And they wanted to make a big deal about it. So, no, we immediately, you know, when I was a homicide detective, I was the overnight shift and I dealt with all the dead babies, waking up in the morning, all the SIDS or the co-sleeping deaths. And it just got to a point where you kind of have to just treat, and this sounds morbid and sounds sad, but it's the way, you know, everybody copes differently. But the way I coped with it, it was, you know, the dead baby was almost like a lamp or, you know, a book or something. It's just an inanimated object. It wasn't moving. And, you know, so.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. You know, I mean, we have to, and that kind of leads to my point where the more we talk about it amongst other vets, number one, we got to drop this tough guy thing, tough girl thing, that we're badasses and it didn't affect us. Once we all sit around and go, okay, look, we're not all badasses, you know, in every aspect of our lives. Once we get past that, then we can sit down and go, hey, let's talk about this. Hey, tell me some screwed up stuff you went through. And then the more you talk about it, you know, I mean, we're going to swap stories and but the more you're able to get it out, the next time that thought comes to you, you know, you can actually put a conversation to that thought. You know, I remember talking to Kevin about this, and now it doesn't bother me as bad. They're never going to go away. I still see dead people every day, you know, because I've just seen so many of them. But I will say this, the more I've talked about them since hitting rock bottom and coming out of my hole and VA counseling and dealing with other veterans. And, you know, I work with the veterans. I work with the Roll Call Foundation, with the Veterans Organization, and I meet a lot of friends and I play music. And the more I tell my story, the easier it gets. And it's not so ugly anymore. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and I know, Doc, you were a first responder. You and I, we've had our conversations about some of the things we've seen on the job just as first responders.
Right.
But I mean, but what we need to do is make sure people understand, look, it's real. The stuff you and I, the stuff that we saw, and I used to tell my guys this all the time, my platoon, when I was a sergeant, I was like, man, you know what? Somebody has got to do this ugly part of the job. Somebody's got to see the ugly in this world. Somebody's got to cope with it and deal with it and catch it and you know, God, you know, back to my anthill analogy, you know, I used to tell my guys and my girls, God has chosen us because he knew we had the intestinal fortitude to be able to do this job. Yeah. Because most people can't stomach the shit we've seen. Excuse me if I wasn't supposed to say it.
No, you can't.
Most people can't stomach the stuff that we've seen. They just can't. It's not human nature to see a freaking 80-year-old man with his head blown off.
Yeah, it utterly baffles me.
Right.
What a being can do to another human being. I will never understand it, and I'll never get it.
Yeah, but you know that's where we have to. You know, that part don't. You know, if you get stuck on that, then you'll always be crazy. Because that part will never, you know, I mean, the bottom line is this: evil exists in this world. Evil exists in this world. And it's just the way it is. It exists just like the sun comes up, the moon comes, grass grows, evil exists. Yeah. And we just have to learn to accept that, you know. Once we can do that, move, then
think about what the world would be like if we didn't have people like you and veterans and first responders.
All of us. Every one of us, veterans and first responders and military. I mean, do we stop evil? No, we don't stop evil. do we slow its halt and help people feel a little bit safer in their beds at night, whether it's the military? I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to brag on the Marines. I got to get to go overseas, and I got to go to other countries in the Mediterranean, and they would all say the same thing. Man, when we saw the U.S. Marines,
Yeah.
we felt good. So sorry, all your Army guys out there in the Air Force. But it's just what now maybe they didn't give us crayons or anything, because I wasn't joking my time.
But on that note, what kills me is all these people that live under the umbrella of the United States and never been outside of it. They don't see what we've seen overseas. And I'm not talking about war and the killing and the death. I'm talking about how individuals treat individuals in different countries. If they saw that, they would think America was the God greatest thing that ever made.
Absolutely.
Because they just don't see the hatred amongst other people.
No, and to not go down a political thing or anything.
No, I'm not going down a political.
But I mean, I spent almost 2 months in Israel, and I got to see. I know what it's like to be in Israel for a long time.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's just different. So that's the thing. So, but I think that's the other thing. I think as veterans and first responders, I did kind of teach a class one time about, and the very first thing I said to is stop watching the damn news so much. Just stop doing it, because number one, being a homicide detective, I could tell you firsthand that the story that you got was only half of it, if it was half right or half wrong. And most of the time it was never correct.
Yeah.
But it was sensationalized. So, as veterans and first responders, I'm like, step one, stop watching the damn news.
Absolutely.
Because all you're going to do is bring ourselves right back to where we were when we were. And it's an addiction. I mean, being a cop was an addiction for me, not the power trip, but just, people like us. I didn't mind getting shot at, and I've been shot at quite a few times in the West End. I didn't mind the getting shot at, the stress, the chaos. I didn't mind that. That was my comfort zone. That was my happy place. And, that's why I hit rock bottom when I retired and all my demons came back, because I had time to stop and think about it.
Absolutely.
But we're all wired the same way. We're all kind of type A.
Yeah, yeah, we are definitely.
I'm not going to go down a political hole, and I'm not going to go down a religious hole, but I honestly, firmly believe that God put me here to take care of people.
Sure.
That's why you
that's
became
all
a
I've done
corpsman.
since I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
That's why you're a corpsman.
Yeah.
Why you're an EMT for Fern Creek, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Michael said here, I never seen real poverty until I went to Korea. I can kind of piggyback off of that. I was, fresh out of boot camp, went to 2nd Battalion 8th Marines Golf Company, and right afterwards I got deployed to Port-au-Prince, Haiti. That place,
Yep.
it was after the government fell.
Oh, yeah.
You go to their marketplace, which they call their marketplaces, where everybody meets up. And if you remember back in the late 80s, early 90s, the landfills that we had here, you could be driving down the street and all of a sudden you smell the trash and the garbage and the smell that you would smell. Down there in Haiti, that smell was 100 times worse in the marketplace. Now, this is where they get their food, their, whatever. And it smelled like a trash dump.
Right.
And I'm talking about like a trash dump on the hottest Kentucky summer day. Down there. It was so bad that we had to push up the windows in the Humvees and close the turret, but it still didn't keep the smell out because, Humvees are, nothing anyway. And when I came back and I was just driving around and dang, I think we lost you, Doc. Just driving around and I smelt that, and it reminded me of being in Haiti and and the poverty down there, man. And like Doc was saying, that they so mean to people. Like the culture there, was way different than it was here. And Doc was saying that if you leave the country and you go to these third world countries, and I don't know what happened here, Doc. Let's remove that one. All right, can you hear me, Doc? See, now I can't hear you. Hold on. I don't know what you did, Doc. Let me Hopefully, I don't kick both of them. Hold on. Talk now, Doc.
I got
There we go. I can hear you now. You were still stuck on the other one, but yeah, you know, in Haiti, that they were so mean to each other, and you know, you got your drug lords or whatever that were killing, you know, just regular civilians, and run PT behind the honey wagon.
Saw that.
And then, you know, when I went to did my med float, and I was in Cartagena, Rota, Spain. I went to Malta. I went to Brindisi and Toronto, Italy, and you know, different countries in Tunisia, Africa, and just to see, you know, these different countries that, you know, I've never seen before, and see how it was there and how it was back home. You know, the freedoms that we. Yes, I almost died in Okinawa. I wasn't gonna bring that up. There's a funny story behind that, but we'll get to that another day. You know, to see how these people treated each other, and then like when we were in Toronto and Brindisi, which is like if you're looking at Italy, you know how you got the boot. The Toronto and Brindisi were two ports on the backside of the boot. They hated us Americans over there. Like when we pulled in the port, got off the boat, and we went into the local pubs and shops and stuff, they wouldn't sell to Americans over there. They hated us for some reason, and it was just like, what the hell, you know, what did we do to you guys,
Right?
You know, and it's just like it was so crazy, man. I tell you. So
That's the way Spain was. Spain was real.
yeah.
Now you know, I did a med punt. I was with the 22nd U, so we did a med pump as well. So Italy wasn't bad. Spain, like Israel was great. Spain, not so much. Now, you know, to your point of different countries, you know, when we were in North Africa and oh hell, I can't remember now the name of the country, but we were training with their military, and we were on the beach, and we're shooting into the side of a hill, which is sand and everything.
Yeah,
doing live fire into the side of a hill. And there's a little boy that comes over and he starts looking over top of this hill. Now this hill is probably, you know, it's probably 100 feet tall, 110 feet tall, but this little boy is like peeking over the top, you know, watching us fire into this hill. So we call for a ceasefire, and I kid you not, the general that was the Moroccan general that was there went up, got the boy, took him down to the ocean, and started drowning.
Oh dang!
And he's like, "Do you want to die? Do you want to die? I'm going to kill you. Want to die?" The thing people don't realize is Americans, that's not our country. It's not our laws.
Yeah,
it's not our rules. We sit back with our hands up in the air and go, can't do nothing about that.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it. You know, what are we going to fight this Moroccan general for this kid and become an international incident?
Yeah.
No, you sit back and you do nothing.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. People in America that want to complain about America, you've never seen that side of the world.
Yeah.
That life in America is 10 times more precious than so many other places in this world. You know, even when I was on homicide, you know, the average life to a person is so much more important than what I saw. You know, it was just insanity. So anyway, you're absolutely right. I wish more people would appreciate how great America really is.
We went there right after the Gulf War ended. They got hit by a typhoon, and we were doing Operation Sea Angel, where we'd go over there and fly the people back out to the hospital ships and sew up and clean their wounds, dress their broken bones, whatever we had to do. But we had so many care packages that we never used. We put them on the 53s and the 46s, flew over the camps because we couldn't land because they would bum rush you.
Right.
And the kids would grab a handful of candy, and they would hand it to people that weren't fortunate enough to get any.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you do that here, and people grab everything they can grab and don't share it, which, you know, humiliating to me that I actually live in a civilized country, unlike Bangladesh, and you know, here we are acting like animals, and they're being the civilian.
Yeah.
It blew me away, and for a long time that bothered me because I wanted to give everybody their share.
Yeah,
and I think that's a lot of what happens to first responders and veterans is we do get to see the other side of life many times. You know,
Good and bad.
Right. So we become, I think it just leads to us being more, probably, I mean, to be very frank, more judgmental.
Yeah.
Because we've seen both sides, you know.
Oh yeah.
But what happens is, and what I've discovered for myself, and I'll just speak on that point, is what happened for me was I became so involved with what I saw as travesties of society, because I've seen both sides now, you know, that it consumed me. And instead of just saying, look, you know, this is just part of life, and I can't, these are things I can't fix or I can't control, so I'm not going to worry about them.
Right.
Once I started learning how to do that, you know, it became easier for me, you know, as a first responder and a veteran, because these problems are always going to exist. Ignorance, I have to say, you know, you've heard the saying, ignorance is bliss, but for me, ignorance is extreme bliss, because from what I've seen in the world, the evil, you know, you never look at the world the same way. I say that because veterans also have the same issue. You know, we don't have the luxury of ignorance is bliss anymore.
Yeah, there's a reason our heads are on swivels.
Yeah, and they don't have to be. And you know, I was talking to a buddy of mine. All the training I did with the police department for 21 years, every bit of the training we did was for the 1% chance of being shot at or being involved with a critical incident, a shooting, police shooting is what they call it. So everything, all training, 20 years of our training, and the percentage is even less than 1%, but I round one for the purpose of the discussion. You know, all our training was for that 1% chance of something happening. The other 99% chance, it wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. So, you know, coming in, sitting with your door, you know, facing a door, having this, being ready to go for that, man, that's good. But you're so stressed out, you can't even enjoy life because you're worried about that 1% chance of shit happening to you. And I finally learned that a couple of years ago. And I'm telling you, it's been a game changer for me. That I'm not going to worry about it. You know, I'm just, because like you know, like we said earlier in the broadcast, you know, it wasn't my time to die. I hit a tree on a motorcycle at 60 miles an hour. By all rights, I should have died. It just wasn't my time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not going to live my life in fear anymore of 1% chance of happening, live my life, you know, head on a swivel. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of veterans in the last couple of years, and they stress themselves out for that reason.
I do.
I know.
To be honest, I do. Like today, we went to after church. We went to so it started in church because I have to sit on the end aisle, the end seat. I can't go inside the aisle. Right. Now my back is still to the back, like where the doors come in, but I still have to be on the end. And then right after church, we went to El Nepal for lunch, and we were back in the back, and my daughter and my wife sit on that side of the table, and then I would have had to sit on the side that was facing the front door, right, with my back to the door. And I was like, no, one of you got to move, you know? And so I stressed myself out over that. And I know that in my mind that nothing's going to happen, but it's such a habit that I've done it for so long with being the hyper vigilant and anxiety that I have to sit there or I don't feel comfortable. Right. Now I still had a great time after I sat down in, you know, the spot that was good for me. I still had a great time. We were celebrating. Matter of fact, Candace, she went to church with us this morning, and right after church, she got baptized. Right. My daughters, Grace and Lorelai, baptized her today. Very nice. And we went out to celebrate, you know, her getting baptized. We called it her birthday lunch because she got baptized. And that's awesome. So, you know, it was, we had a great time, had great discussion. You know, there was no stress, no arguments, no anything. It was just a great time. And other than me telling my daughter that she had to get up so I could sit there, you know, and they know, here's the thing, they know that I'm that way. I think all of our family, all of our families know that, but they just do it because they don't realize. Yeah, but you know, the thing is, I think if we talk to, man, I don't have numbers on it. I can only tell you damn near 10 out of 10 veterans I talk to have anxiety. Yeah. And I think, you know, and I sit back and I wonder, okay, how much of this anxiety is really
self-manifested.
Yeah.
Because we do worry about the 1%. And here's the thing. The thing about veterans, the thing about first responders is, even if we have our back to the door, we're going to notice things first before anyone else even does.
Yeah.
Whether it's through sound or somebody, a conversation or whatever. So, we're still going to we still have the training of the whole heightened awareness. But I challenge veterans to, try to get out of that comfort zone of always being ready to win, because I think that's where our brains are at, and it's an extra stress that we don't need. It's an extra anxiety that we need to try to work on as well. But
hey, Doc, I didn't ask you before you came on, but how was your Christmas? How was your New Year's? And how's the wife and kids?
Oh, they're all doing great. It was a great Christmas. A couple of years ago, I had a bad one, and you came over, and we talked about that, and how grateful we were for you coming over and just sitting down and chatting and bringing me back down to earth and get me out of that stratosphere. But no, this year was good. I'm in a good place, and I look forward to the year coming up, and got 2 kids graduating college, so that debt will be gone, thank God. It's the little things that stress you out in life anymore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had a great Christmas, and then we had a great New Year's. We went to Florida like we do every year for the last 4 years, and
awesome.
Spent it with some good friends and good company down there. I want to shout out Got Your Six Culture LLC. I'm wearing their shirt right here. Same flag, same oath. This is one of them. I got another one that says Got Your Six on the front of it. My wife got them for me for Christmas. And then right here behind me, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if that's Matt or Becky, but I got my book, Borderline, Rocco or Vincent Vargas defending the home front. This guy, dude, you don't want to meet him in a dark alley. Let me tell you, this is a great read. If you haven't read it, I would recommend getting Borderline by Vincent Vargas. Got Your Six, hook me up with it. It is a signed copy. It is a signed copy.
Cool.
So I'm excited about that. And I got my new stuff back here behind me that I got for Christmas. I got my new coin display case. I got my crowns up. I hung my flag up. So we did a little bit of redecorating for the new season and the new year.
I only got one problem with this whole scenario, though.
What's that?
Where was our invite to go to Florida with your ass?
I'm sorry, man. Next time. We'll get you next time.
Yeah, next time. I heard that before. Check the mail, right?
Well, we had 15. We had 15 different. So it was 15 people total in this house.
Fun.
Yeah, we had a pretty good time down there, man. But no, for the new year, just coming up here in February, it'll be actually 1 full year of doing a podcast. I'm super excited about that. I think we're going to have some kind of round robin with on our 1 year anniversary. So I'm excited about that. Doc, thanks for coming on and sharing your expertise and your thoughts on this. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, man, because I know Kevin's got to get on and do his things. He's got to call his kid back and stuff. But thanks for coming on and hanging out with me, Doc.
All right. Y'all have a great night. It's good seeing you again, Kevin.
Absolutely, Doc.
Hope you're doing well, brother.
I'm doing good.
All right, Doc, if you need anything, call me. All right, brother?
All right, we'll see y'all.
All right, man. Later. Yeah, no, Doc is my brother, man. I've known I remember when I first met Doc, he was in a different place than he is now. And I'm excited to see where he is. And he's still got a long way to go. Like I called to invite him to a U of L football game. And he's like, man, I'm not ready for that crowd yet. And I understand that. And I'm like, but I still ask him. Right. It's the whole point of I'm going to keep asking him until he tells me he's going to go with me. Because that's my whole purpose. One veteran at a time. I've said it numerous times. one veteran at a time. You help one today, that veteran's going to turn around and help somebody tomorrow. And Matt Johnson, if that's Matt here with Got Your Six, on his podcast, his group, Ty, Scott, Al, Matt, they say the same thing: one veteran at a time, right? And that's what it's all about. If you help somebody today, that veteran's going to turn around and help somebody tomorrow. And then that's how we do it. We work together, and that's how we're going to do it. So, but like I say, always, you know what? Before we do that, tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you.
Yeah, I encourage anyone, if you have any questions or thoughts or know anybody that I can help, probably the best way is going to be my email. It's Kevin, Kevin, Trees, Trez. My last name's with an S, but the email's with a Z, and that's at yahoo.com. So it's Kevin, Kevin, Trez at yahoo.com.
Now they can also look you up on Facebook, TikTok.
I'm on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. You can message me on Facebook. Just look me up, hit me up.
Yeah, on Facebook it's Kev Trees though.
Yeah, on Facebook it's Kev Trees. You can Google my name. There'll be a lot of things that pop up that you can find me. But like I said, I think we're just all in this. Thank you, Julie. We're all in this together. We need to be in it together. And I think we need to do better this year, especially in the veteran community, looking out for one another. I mean, the way our society is going now, being selfish, it's all about me, man. I mean, veterans and first responders, we've got to look out for each other. And I think you said it best. You invited Doc to your parties, and he might say no, but we just have to keep asking. We just have to keep asking, and don't let anyone fall through the cracks.
Yeah, here's one thing that I'll say is, if I asked you how you're doing, you'll say I'm fine.
Sure.
Where we have to get better at is reading between the lines, because I'm fine is different than I'm doing great or I'm doing okay.
Right.
You just have to read between the lines, because I'm fine. JR says it right there, 22 a day shouldn't be any.
No.
Let's get that number down.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, JR, asking that next question. There you go, Julie. You are 100%. Ask that next question. Go a step further. Just don't leave it be as I'm fine. Ask that next question. Ask the harder question, because I guarantee you they might be fine to a certain extent, but they're not where they need to be. Right. And JR, you are right. 22 a day shouldn't be any. Unfortunately, I think that number is skewed because there's a lot of times it's not reported fully. Somewhere the study says it's more closer to 40 a day. 40 veterans a day commit suicide. Unfortunately, only 22 of them are reported. One is too many. So I would agree with you on that. And like I said, help one veteran a day. That veteran is going to go help somebody tomorrow. And Scott, aka DJ Royalty, he says always, wake up tomorrow because I love you. They love you. Make sure you do what you're supposed to be doing. And that's spot on right there, because you are worth it. I'm worth it. Right. Doc's worth it. JR's worth it. Julie, Candace, everybody who comes on here, you guys are worth it. And you're just worth it. I mean, it's just plain and simple. I don't know how else to put it, but you guys are worth it.
No, and we have to change. We have to change the way we treat each other.
Yeah.
And that's something we can do. It's a conscious decision. And I think what better place to start than veterans and first responders. We just need to look out for each other. That's just the bottom line.
No, I agree. And yeah, I love my new studio. We're going to change some things around and try to make it a little bit more pleasing. I'm in the process of trying to get some camo netting. I'm going to get some camo netting and some ammo cans and some sandbags. We're going to definitely make it look like a bunker, kind of, sort of, kind of cool. We'll see.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we're just playing by ear. So yeah, but like I always say, stay safe out there. And I got your 6. Peace.
Peace. Crap.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find Homefront SitRep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your 6.